So we're back today with another repair. This time these super cool soldering irons from Milwaukee. I've got two of them because one died last year, so I went on Facebook Marketplace, as you do, to get another one, and I got the other one, and in the meantime dismantled the first one and fixed it. Like, generally when soldering irons die, the resistor dies, the heating element dies, but this is a ceramic heating element, and for my surprise, after I dismantled it, it was not that. What was the problem was these thermal resistors. These thermal resistors, on normal operation, they're shorted and they're supposed to be in the circuit when they get too hot or when stuff goes wrong. But after a while they tend to just die, and what happens is there's no continuity, so there's no power going to the resistor, to the heating element, sorry. So the soldering iron just dies. Now originally this was placed like that, and it's got this crimp connector here and this crimp connector that goes to this wire here. But what I'll do is, because I did this before and I went for the crimp connector method, but that's a bit destructive to things, especially on the ceramic heater side. So what I'll do is I've left a little bit of this old pin. I'll drill a new hole in this circuit board, because this, I think initially this was meant for this resistor to go in these holes, solder, and then solder from here to the heating, to this thermal fuse, and then the thermal fuse clipped here. Now I'm not sure why they ditched this method. Maybe it's because this gets silly hot and this needs to be high temperature solder, which I don't really have at the moment, but I'll try the normal solder, see what happens. I forgot to mention before, so this was sent to Milwaukee. Within a year they sent it back to me, and then within another year it died again. So I'm like, okay, this time it's out of warranty, so I'm just gonna need to fix it by myself if I can. So that's how I discovered that these actually go wrong, not the resistor itself. So I've seen what part it is. I'll show it to you on the microscope. I've ordered it, and that was that. Ended up fixing this one, but because I'm using these every day, before fixing this one I went on Marketplace and bought myself another second-hand unit, which is this one. It's a bit newer, so I used that, fixed this. This died in the process. I fixed this one also, and now this is at the third fixing, including the warranty fix. This will be at the second fixing. Generally these last about a year, something like that, which is not bad. Not bad. Now the part in question is this one. It says SC fuse SF150RO or 0, 152 degrees Celsius, CCC 15 amps, C2372. Now I'm not one to say, but this thing kind of dies clockwork around a year. Like at about 12 months, 11 months, it just dies. Now I'm not one to judge these companies, but the warranty on these things is a year when you buy them. It just makes you think, doesn't it? This silly consumerism bullshit world that we live in. Just, you know what I mean? Because like this is not a simple tool. It's not just a battery heating an element. Like, it's got a PCB and all, probably it's temperature controlled. So it's a pretty intelligent tool, and it makes me sad when these companies do stuff like this and then people end up throwing away this tool with all this silicon inside it with all this, it just goes to waste. And then, you know, the population and politicians go like, oh, there's no resources left. Well, we're fucking throwing out shit like this, you know what I mean? And we're buying a new one. What do you think it's gonna happen? Like, seriously, what would you think is gonna happen if we keep throwing all these materials in the bin and just buying new ones? Yeah, you'll make some CEOs rich, but then what in the long run? I think we should be way more responsible with our electronics, but that's just my opinion. You don't have to take it. I'm just expressing it because I can. Well, still can. Okay, so surprisingly enough, this is not high temperature solder. That's great news for me. It means I can do that hole where I want it in this board and just feed the leg from the heater in there, so I never have to touch it. Because last times I did this thing, I was very careful not to snap this leg from the heater, this leg here, because obviously when you press these things, you're pressing them with a tool like this, or ideally with a tool like this, but because of where it is, this didn't fit in there. So if I solder it on that main board, then this problem is gone, and if I ever have to replace these resistors or thermal fuses again, I'll just desolder them from that hole and just, you know, replace them. Okay, so what I have is a 1mm drill bit. So there's my mark. I'm just gonna drill that. Okay, so one of my worries was, because this is a multi-layered PCB, one of my worries was what happens if there's layers underneath. So I put it under the microscope, but there's no layers in between. So there's only a layer on top and a layer at the bottom, so happy days. That's how it looks with the heat shield on. So hopefully I'll never have to touch this ever again. And if from now on, replacing those thermal fuses is gonna be a breeze, because I don't have to clip them on the ceramic heater side. Now I'm gonna do an experiment with this one, because I wanted to use these kind of things, these kind of crimp connectors. But I'm thinking, since I've soldered here, I'm just gonna solder here and solder the wire. Why not? I mean, if it unsolders itself because of the heat, then I'll have to redo it with the crimp connectors. But so far, I don't see the point of not soldering. All right, I had to cut a little bit of the casing there just to make space for the new modification. And also I had to bring in the solder puddle because it wasn't fitting on the other side, but I've test fitted it now and it's all right. So when you solder this, make sure you got a even puddle that goes all around and all it's nice. Heat shrink on top, all nice. So there's the connection done. That's this side and this is that side. Make sure you don't short anything when you do it. I'm gonna have to research this because I think because it's a thermal fuse, if you heat it past 152 degrees, which is the rated value, it dies. Because this one died. That's so weird. That's very weird. I think that's the reason why they use crimp connections. Interesting. Okay, so because I was a little bit dumb and the key is in the name, a thermal resistor breaks the circuit if it gets hot. So me soldering it, I broke the circuit. So what I did was, because I paid £6 for one of these and it came from Germany and it's almost Christmas, I'm thinking, if that, I bought 2 of them, I got 1 left, but I think that's gonna get messed up also for the second one. So what I did was I just took heat shrink, wrapped a terminal in heat shrink and just bridge that connection. Because this is computer controlled and it's got 2 leads for the actual resistor and 2 leads for the temperature sensor, this will always know what temperature it is. So my reasoning for this is, again, this is an experiment. If you want to do this proper, refit the thermal fuse just like the manufacturers did. And also I've realized why they crimped it, because if you solder it, you get it hot and then the thermal fuse goes, so then that is gonna kill your thing. So, but like I said, because this is computer controlled and temperature controlled, this will never get hotter than it's supposed to, really, technically, if it functions right. And now for the big test. So when this stops flashing, it reaches temperature. There we go. There we go. Let's try with some solder. There we go. Nice. Okay, so this is the second soldering iron. This is the old thermal resistor, thermal fuse. Let's measure it. Open line. Let's measure the new one. There we go. New one, 20 ohms. Great stuff. Alright, so since I've got one of these working, I'm just gonna keep the new soldering iron with the thermal coupler, the thermal resistor on, and this one is straight wired. And I'll come back in the comments after a while. I'm pretty sure this is gonna die at some point, and that's gonna keep on living. There's another one fixed. So this one, the new version, has the thermal resistor in there. The old version doesn't have the thermal resistor, it's a straight wire. I bet this is gonna fail first. Happy days. I got my soldering irons fixed.